All right, Ken, we are on the mic
Hey,
live. Well, we're not live. We're
yeah,
live to each other, but we're not live
yeah,
to the world. But
I know,
I
right?
appreciate you coming on. I know you had some little health scares there, but it turns out to be nothing.
Oh my
And
God.
now we'll talk
Yeah,
about voice industry and business and all that stuff and your
absolutely.
your background. But I
Certainly.
just wanted to make a comment as we're putting it out there. I find that like when you rent stuff like from Home Depot for cleanups,
Right?
those machines are like they're probably full of COVID. People go and they clean
Oh,
up dog shit and they don't
oh
wash those machines out and stuff.
no.
Stay away from that stuff. We don't use them anymore.
Okay, well, since you opened the door, goodness, maybe we need to go backtrack a little bit and tell everyone that, yeah, I had to rent some industrial fans to dry out my garage after my water heater leaked the week
Right.
before last.
But that wasn't the issue. The issue was you didn't feel well and you
Well,
thought
yeah,
maybe when you're at Home Depot you got exposed to
it's
something.
possible. It's
It's
possible.
possible.
I mean, anything's
So what, like
possible.
3 tests later, you're negative?
Yeah, well, I got tested today. I'll find out in 5 days. So we'll see.
Yeah, you got to stay on top of those people. My wife came back from college with my son, so,
Yeah.
and a friend of ours' son also started as a freshman. So the
Okay.
two of them go to this clinic nearby. 3
Hmm.
days later, the our friend Helene has the results. My wife just got her results yesterday. It's been 2 weeks.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like they lose things, or I don't know, maybe frontline
Okay.
workers come in and they get
Oh,
priority. I have no idea.
okay. This is what they said. They said, "Oh, it'll be 3 to 5 days, but we're legally have to say 5 to 10 days," is what they
Yeah,
said.
see, there
Yeah,
you
that's what
go.
they told me. So
They get overwhelmed.
it
So
could be
anyway,
anywhere. Yeah.
but you're healthy. You're feeling good. You're sounding good. Your
No.
voice is good.
Yeah, I feel good. Yesterday, oh my God, like we were talking before we started taping, I felt like the Warner Brothers anvil was on top of my skull
Yeah.
yesterday morning, and yeah, it was hard to focus. It was hard to work. It was hard to even just read the paper. I mean, it was one of the
Well, it's
worst headaches
Sunday.
I've
Don't
had
you
in
just
years.
take the day off anyway?
Well, I work every day. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
work every day in
People
this
need you
industry.
to do stuff, right?
Well, it's not just that. I mean, I have to promote, network. I have to, coordinate my business. I have to decide, things that I haven't focused on because I've either been networking or I've been recording. I have to, focus my attention on that. I keep the books, or I need to, check my bank account and start moving some money around from one that I have set up specifically to receive payments from, PayPal or any other
Right.
online payments, and move them away. So I only keep a very minimum amount in case there are any bad people out there
That
who
suck
want
it
to
out of your
that.
account.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I keep a very minimal amount in there at all times. But things like that, just busy work, just administrative type work, and the rehearsing, or
Hard to
rather, I should say,
concentrate.
well, that and the auditioning, it kind of drops off over the weekends. So that's really
Yeah.
when the best time to do the administrative work. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you find
So
you're auditioning most days. You have an audition.
absolutely, I tell you, auditions get posted at any time of day or night. Truthfully, I have
Oh,
been,
wow.
I have to monitor my email constantly. I get emails, posted auditions from like at 3 in the morning,
Really?
ongoing till midnight the next day. Yeah, it's just I mean, well, I'm auditioning for jobs all over the planet, and so you
Right.
have
So yeah.
different
So it's
time
not three
zones.
in the morning there.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
business. It's their business hours over there, and yeah, it's just I do it every day, and I even audition on the weekdays too. They get posted then, and more to the point, I also get awarded jobs at 10:30 on a Thursday night or
To
6 a.m.
do
on
like
Sunday
we need
morning.
you to do this now.
We need you to do it. That's right. We get awarded the job,
Oh.
and they're like, there's a. Let me backtrack a little
Yeah,
bit.
because
There,
well, we're going to get into the whole voice
right,
business and how you could get started and how you got
right,
started. But
right.
well, why don't we back up then? Talk
Certainly,
about
yeah.
your
Let's do it.
background, where you grew up, what you did, because I know you've
Oh,
taught martial arts and all
oh my
kinds of
God.
stuff.
Okay, so well, all
Let's
right.
go
So I
back. You were
was,
born in a cabin somewhere in
yeah,
Montana.
yeah, up in Illinois. Yeah, I walked 10 miles to school every day, and
Both ways.
what people don't understand is that you're always late when you
Yeah.
have to do that.
Yep.
So, but
You
anyway,
were a
no,
late
no,
kid.
I was late. I was late.
Okay.
No, no. No, actually, I was born in San Antonio on Fort
Oh,
Sam
okay.
Houston, on Fort Sam Houston, Brooke Army Medical Center. My father
Okay.
was Army,
Okay.
right, and so I was raised all over the world.
You
And
were an army brat, right?
that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Exactly.
That's
Yeah. So, all right. So I graduated from Judson High School in Converse, Texas. Converse, Texas, down there in San Antonio.
so how
And
many, you must have been to a lot of schools then, right?
well,
You moved
yeah, quite
around
a few actually. Yeah. And you move every couple of years, you make new friends.
around the world
Yeah.
or mostly in the United States?
Well, I remember, let's see. Okay. I've been to Germany,
Oh,
France,
okay.
Spain, let's see, all over the United States, Japan.
Oh, you've
So,
really been everywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been
Oh,
around.
okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. So, okay. So, all right. Let's see. So I graduated from high school at Converse, went to college at the University of Texas at San Antonio.
Oh, so you're a Texas boy.
Yeah. And let's see. So Okay, I graduated with a
UT
BA
is, oh, the main campus is in Austin, but they have a
is in
campus in
Austin.
San Antonio.
And they
Okay.
have a campus. Let's see, they have campuses in San Antonio, El Paso, and let's see, up in Dallas. I think up,
Okay. Dallas
yeah,
Fort Worth. Okay.
right, yeah, yeah. And so I graduated with a BA in English and anthropology, which my take on it then was that I wanted to study things that I liked studying, so that I would do well,
Okay. Well, that makes
with
sense.
my schooling, right?
Right.
But in retrospect, what it really qualifies me to do is to think, talk, write, and dig up old bones, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Study
college
primitive
in and of
cultures.
itself is really just an
Yeah.
exercise in thinking. But
Yeah.
you could have moved to the Middle East and done excavations all your
Well,
life.
I actually have been involved in excavations
Oh,
before. They're a
cool.
lot of fun. It's very meticulous work. It's fascinating work, but I
Yeah.
tell you, it can take a lifetime.
Yeah.
It can take a
Yeah, because
lifetime
you're
of work.
sifting through this dirt, right? Looking for this one little piece, and
It
then
has to be done so
yeah,
meticulously, so carefully. They will give you like a square yard of earth, okay, and you have to take an inch at a time, all of it across the whole yard. And if something pokes up at one point, you have to grid. You have to put it on a grid. Put it in your journal entries. This is what I found at such and such a time, and then you have to very carefully, remove the dirt around it an inch at a time. And as it slowly starts to come into view, you catalog it again, graph what it's, as it appears. If it's a piece of pottery, if it's a piece of a
right.
statue, right? It can take forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So case in point, I'm not involved in this, but there's a dig down in Central America called the El Mirador dig, and it's fascinating. This guy has been leading this dig since the late 1970s.
Oh my God.
Right.
So
And he lives
40
down there.
some odd years he's out there.
Yes, yes. And they have
No, more
unearthed
than 40, 50 years.
exactly. And he's living down there, and he has excavated so many amazing, it's just like 50 cities of pre-classic
Yeah.
Mayan, not classic, but pre-classic Mayan civilization. And what we've discovered, and what he's discovered rather, I should say, is that the pre-classic period was more advanced than the later period. And it seems, like so many things in life, that the descendants of those people were emulating their ancestors. And because just some of the artifacts and some of the major roadways that he's discovered, and the beautiful the friezes and the beautiful sculpturing, oh my God, it's just beautiful. And it's we're talking what, over 1,000 years ago?
Thousands of years.
Just beautiful. And the largest pyramid in the world has been discovered down there, and it's currently everybody just thinks it's a big hill, right? Well, it's larger than the Empire State Building laying on its side, and also taller than like the Statue of Liberty. It's just the biggest, and up until now it's just been covered in forest and grass, and
And he's excavated the whole thing.
that's going to take a while to excavate that.
But he's found it.
But he's found it, yeah. So, and it's a basically 50 cities over a huge complex, all interconnected by giant highways that are like a football field across, and then slope off sharply on either side to the growth down below. And it's just amazing. But I think they're coming to understand that the original pre-classic culture was more advanced than the later classic culture.
Well, that's when the aliens visited
Exactly.
Earth.
That's
how
right.
they got built.
Yeah, if you watch Ancient Aliens, it's funny. I'll tell you what. Okay, you watch the Science Channel during the day. The ancient pyramids were the burial tombs of the pharaohs or whatever. But at night, oh my goodness, those pyramids turn into UFOs and fly around the planet.
Right,
so,
of course.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's got to be an explanation for something, right?
Yeah. Well, there's got to be something to it. I mean, there's some strange things that have gone on in the ancient past that we really just can't explain.
Right?
That's it. The ancients.
So you obviously didn't pursue anthropology, right? You were
no, I did not. Life happens. You have to work. I mean, I had to work. There was a time I was working 3 jobs and taking a full-time load in college. And looking back on it, I'm really not exact. There's not a chance I could ever do that again. I can't.
Well,
I mean, I found time to not only 3 jobs, take a full-time load. I had, obviously was able to go out and have fun, had girlfriends, I mean, I don't
That's
even
why
know
you
how
do
I
it when
did
you're
that.
young.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea. That was back when I had hair too. That's something that needs to be very clearly stated. Yeah.
Right. Well, if anybody watches this video when we upload it to YouTube,
actually, now that I think about it, I started realizing I was losing my hair when I was 27 years old, and I absolutely think now that all of that work that I was doing in college and the pressure I was putting on myself is probably what contributed to me losing all my hair.
Yeah,
so,
it probably accelerates it. Yeah.
I'm telling you. So yeah, that's a whole separate story in and of itself. But yes, once I graduated from college, I was coaching gymnastics, martial arts, and jazz dance. And my original goals with that were to open up my own gymnasium and to have a school of gymnastics, martial arts, and jazz dance. And
Was that just because that was a hobby of yours? I mean, because you were an
no,
English major,
I had
so.
studied, okay, I had been studying martial arts since I was very young. I'd
Oh,
been studying
okay.
gymnastics since I was very young.
Oh, okay.
And the dancing, I was never formally trained, but
Yeah.
but you know, I mean, I have a lot of rhythm in my mother's side of my family, and I inherited it. So dancing is just second nature to me. So I've danced on stage in musicals. I've
Oh,
danced. I mean,
okay.
I just love to dance. I mean, I would dance if I could dance in this little booth when the cool music came on. I
You
would,
would do it. Yeah.
but I just don't have enough room,
Right.
and probably the view that you would get of me dancing might be a tad inappropriate, you know. So yeah, but so no, I just wanted what I used to teach as far as the dance went was, you know, when you see
Yeah.
girls gymnastics, you watch them tumble on floor and on
Yeah,
beat,
like they dance.
and
Yeah.
then they dance a little bit. Okay, well I taught that.
Okay.
That's the
So
choreography
it
that I
fit
taught.
in with your
So and I was
gymnastics.
able to actually, you know, do things on beam and then do things on bars, and yeah, it's scary. Yeah, let me tell you something. Balance beam is scary. Okay.
I can't even.
Yeah.
I don't even
Oh
want to think
God.
about it.
Yeah. As a guy, yeah. Yes, you straddle it. Well, you have to straddle the girls when they straddle it. It hurts them too.
I'm
So
sure it does. But
yeah.
guys, well,
But
that's why
anyway,
guys don't. Do guys do beam? Or they just do like
no, they
pommel
do not.
horse and thing.
No,
No.
but I tell you what, pommel horse. Oh God, I
Yeah.
hated the pommel horse. And I think most gymnasts, you know, it's interesting, and I don't know why we're getting into this, but
No.
in
Well, we'll
gymnastics,
get off in a
yeah, we'll
second.
get back to it. But in gymnastics, it seems like there are two different types. And you gymnasts out there, you check me out on this. There are guys who are great on pommel horse. I mean, they're excellent
Right.
on pommel horse. And you know, maybe they can do a round off flip flop on floor, and maybe they can do maybe some kips on bars or something. But oh my God, they're so great at pommel horse. And then there are guys like I was, who was, you know, pretty good at everything else. But, oh my God, pommel horse. Oh, pommel horse. Oh God,
Hated
I
it.
hated that. I hated that thing. I hated that thing. But I just was no good at pommel horse. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful to watch when it's done well.
Yeah. Sure.
It's wonderful to watch. And people don't understand is that all of the swinging and the Thomas flaring and all of the handstanding, that's not what the judges judge. What they judge are the hand placements on the horse itself. How you travel up and down the pommels and down, up and
Ah.
around, back up,
The rest of it's
and
not.
how you turn yourself around, how you place your hands. The next time, now that you know that, the next time you see someone doing pommel horse, watch their hands and you'll see what I'm talking about, because they're having to very carefully
Right.
place their hands while they're circling around the pommel horse and doing their skills and so forth. So, similar with figure skating, people think that it's all about the double axles, and
Right.
it's not. It's not. It's about drawing a very clean line on the ice with your skates. Hence the term figure skating, because you're drawing figures on
Got
the
it.
ice. Right. But yeah. So my original goal was to have a gym, and it was something I believed in. The simple issue there was economics. I mean, it takes, and it probably is a lot more now, but back then I would have had to have had at least $500,000 to even consider the possibility of opening up a facility, because they're huge. You're talking about a cavernous warehouse size facility. The equipment is expensive. The mats are expensive. The trampolines are expensive. The insurance for it all is expensive. The
Right.
advertising, you have to have the proper location. Yeah, you need to have at least $500,000 before you can even consider the possibility. So, and it's probably a lot more now. And
Probably. Sure.
yeah, and so, you know, and things in life happen. You know, you kind of, I mean, I got married, had children, and
Damn
then
kids. You know.
I
Getting
have
them.
to, and I ended up with full custody of them. You know, but you know, I mean, life, like I said, life happens.
Life
And
happens. There was a
right, and
show I
so
did.
okay, so I ended up drifting away from gymnastics, martial art, and then ended up running a screen printing department for a sporting goods supply company, and I did that for 10 years. And interspersed with all of
Screen
this,
printing, like on T-shirts and stuff.
T-shirts, athletic jerseys for all sports, track
People don't know what
singlets.
screen printing is nowadays. That you
Yeah,
had a screen
exactly.
and you put the colors on. You pulled the thing
And
over.
they pull a squeegee over
Yeah.
across the screen. It's a
Right.
silk. Yeah, the silk. It's called a silk screen, but really it's a nylon mesh.
Yeah.
And you know, you just press the ink through the very thin screen, which has, you know, like maybe 100 holes per square inch or 200 holes per square inch, and it presses the ink onto the garment. And there are two types of screen printing. There's the spot color printing, which is the actual colors, and then
Right.
there's process color printing, which is a kind of a mix of chemicals and inks that, when they combine together, create colors. So yeah,
Oh.
it's yeah. So that process printing is very useful if your printing press only has a limited number of printing heads. Now, if you have a huge industrial automatic machine which can have, oh my God, so many, like the 15, 20 heads. And you could do process color on that and just do wonderful things. And the whole machine will just over time, over like the course of, you can print like thousands of shirts, thousands and thousands of shirts. That's how they do, like when the Super Bowl or the NBA championships, they have two printing houses ready to go, either with the Cowboys one or with the Steelers one. And they're ready, and whoever wins, that house, immediately gets busy. As soon as the game is over,
sure, because people can start ordering right away.
And they are printing out tens of thousands of those shirts. Yeah, right.
Sure.
So anyway, so I did that for about 10 years, and then I got into law enforcement, and I was a corrections officer for the local county sheriff, and I'm very proud. I know that's gotten a bad rap in recent.
No, it's got to be a tough job. You're dealing with.
It's an extremely difficult job. It's an extremely
because you're dealing with people that are on parole, right?
I was
in the jail.
I was dealing with people who had been charged, who were waiting for trial, who had been convicted and were waiting to go to prison. And,
and they were what, in county jails or local?
In county jail, right. Yeah. And they were in county jail. And some would be there upwards of a year before they get transferred. Some even longer before they get transferred to the penitentiary. And some they'd go to the penitentiary, but then they'd get pulled back because they needed to appear in court again on what's called a bench warrant.
Right.
So, I did that for 8.5 years. And I'm real proud of the work I did. I never mistreated anyone. I never violated anyone's civil rights. I did what was required of me within the bounds of the law and, of course, according to my duty.
Yeah.
So, you're working with a segment of people, the vast majority of whom who have just made a mistake.
Right.
Okay. They've made a mistake and they've been incarcerated, and they usually bond out or they get out comparatively quickly, after they go to trial or whatever.
Yeah. They're not bad people. They did a bad thing.
They just made a mistake, like,
there's
DWIs,
a big difference, right?
DWIs, or they got caught, they got
There's
caught
a big difference between bad people and people that do bad things or made a mistake and just screw up.
Right. And then there are the people who have actually committed some serious crimes, and obviously across the board, gang violence, assault, battery, murder, kidnapping, domestic terrorism, all of that stuff. I mean, and then you have your repeat offenders. And so, you get to know these individuals, and I would talk to them like I'm talking to you right now. I mean, they're just people too,
Of course. And you were down in Texas, so this was like near the border?
No. This is in Central Texas.
Okay.
Just north of Austin. Yeah.
Got it.
This is in Central Texas. Yeah. And, it was hard work, but it was great work. The people I work with, very diverse from all backgrounds, military and otherwise. And they were all great, very disciplined, very conservative people. And even that term, I know that term is politically charged now,
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. But, they were just all great people. I mean, they were great people. And none of them, and I guarantee you all of them, absolutely deplore what happens, when there's, and I know this is such a charged subject. But myself, absolutely myself, and all of my former colleagues absolutely deplore, okay? We absolutely condemn what happened to Mr. Floyd and all of the other individuals, okay?
Right.
Of
course.
Absolutely. And it's just unfortunate that in the course of enforcing the law, there are times when, I'm sorry, but we had to put our hands on people, and we had to take them down to the ground and, and cuff them. Yeah. I mean, it's not something, it's hard work. It's like you say, it's just hard work. It's very hard work, but I'm very proud.
The guy that just got shot, where is that? Kenosha or something?
That was in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they should have shot him 7 times, but apparently they tried to tase him twice. He had a knife in his hand and he was going for a gun. So,
well, according to the account that I've read, that apparently he had warrants.
Yeah.
And was in and out of jail quite a bit. Apparently he was called as a result of a domestic dispute going on. Apparently he was trying to take someone's car, I guess his girlfriend's car or something. She called the police. They showed up, and yes, they tried to take him into custody. He resisted.
Yeah.
Tased him. That didn't have an effect, which can happen. It's not an exact science.
Especially if you're high or something.
And then he ran away from them, refused to obey commands, reached into his vehicle where he was reaching for a knife, according to the official police account that I've read. Okay. And of course, that investigation is still ongoing. So that's just me just simply saying what I've read from the police association from Kenosha, Wisconsin, that this is what they've officially published.
Yeah,
and it's about as detailed as I've seen, really, especially with something that's still an ongoing investigation. That actually kind of surprises me. So,
maybe that's a sign of the times. They want to be as transparent as they can be.
Yes, that was my next statement. I believe that's probably the case. Absolutely. Yeah. All of that is just so politically charged, and it just tears my heart out that everything has just, it seems to be kind of getting, kind of building up to a head, like it's
Oh,
building up
there's
to
no question. It's
a
just
fever
built over.
pitch.
I mean, there was
Um,
the same amount of racism in the country before George Floyd got,
mm, mm,
murdered. It was the same, but
right.
it's just that it's boiling over. That's what
Yeah.
happens with,
Yeah.
different times in our history, and things
You
will
know,
change,
there are always going to be incidents of racism. There are always going to be bad actors. I got to say that there were certain
Definitely.
individuals, even at the county when I worked there were certain individuals who used to color the performance of their duties with their neo-fascistic tendencies. Let me just put
Right.
it that way.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I found it extremely distasteful.
Of
But
course.
I didn't really like to be relieved
Yeah.
or to relieve those individuals because either if I were relieving them, I knew that the inmates were pretty riled up because that's what they would do. Okay.
Yeah. You knew you were
Then it
walking
would require
into a
me. Then
hostile situation.
it would require me to stay very calm and let everyone know that look, I'm not him.
Right.
I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I just enforce the rules. We can have a
Right.
good night. We can have a good night here.
Right.
Okay.
But when
Uh,
people are, you get
yeah.
emotionally charged and you're worked up and
Right.
you're
Right.
incarcerated, sometimes it's
Yeah.
hard to come down off
It's
of that,
hard. It is hard. It's very difficult. I I used this is a great segue here. I used the power of my voice, okay,
Okay.
to immediately take charge of the housing unit. Okay, this is something that I would do right when I get on duty, right when the pass down was completed, which is when the previous officer tells me what's been going on, gives me the official head count, what's been going on, anything that happened.
Right.
You'll need to get this guy a new uniform. This guy here, his mattress is no good. You might need to give a new one, that sort of thing. Then once he left, I would take a few minutes and would just approach the area and just kind of let the silence build slightly to where it was almost a thing in and of itself, to where I had their attention. And then I could use my voice without shouting to basically cover the entire, and we're talking a huge housing unit. These
Right. Well, there
houses
was a PA system,
are really
right?
big. No, it was just me
No?
projecting my voice and talking to
Oh,
all of these men all at the same time, just letting them know, look, I'm Bryant. I what was it I used to say? Let me think. I'm Bryant. I want to let you know that I will treat you as good as you treat me. It's just as simple as that. We can have a good night. You all know the rules. If we follow them, we'll have a great night. One thing I'm going to need from you, though, gentlemen, I need you to keep your clothes on in the day room. This isn't state jail. I remember telling them that.
people would do that?
Yeah, they would come out without their shirts on or something, or and yeah, and then at rack time when you needing to put all these men up, and I remember used to tell them, I said, look, man, I can appreciate the truly human need to continue to talk amongst yourselves. It helps to pass the time. It helps to relieve the stress. I can appreciate this, but the vast majority of the men in this unit want to get some sleep, and I respect that, and therefore so must you. Now, as we are all well aware, I have a very lengthy list of ways to make this happen, but I don't want to go there, and nobody wants to be on that list. So, if I can hear you up at my desk, you're being entirely too loud. And also, go bathroom usage. Getting up to get some water, go to the bathroom, squeeze out yesterday's lunch is fine. Getting up to make ramen noodles is not.
Could you do that in your cell?
Pardon me?
You could make
Oh,
ramen
oh,
noodles?
yeah. Well, they could make ramen noodles at any time during the day room hours, but if you start getting up and making food in the middle of the night, well, then other people want to share the food. They want to start sharing it around, and I can appreciate that too. I mean, I understand people want to get up and sharing food, and this
This
is
was federal prison?
no
Oh,
county
this
jail,
is you because right, because
right? County jail, right?
they
They
were
were
being
in between, right?
transferred, they were waiting
Right,
for
right,
whatever. So it wasn't
right.
as strict as like state penitentiary
Well,
stuff.
no, we were pretty strict. Yeah,
Oh
we were
yeah?
pretty strict. Yeah, we were pretty strict. I
Bad
mean,
shit would go on, like
it would.
okay.
We'd confiscate shanks and homemade hooch, and
Right.
fights would break out. I mean, yeah, oh yeah. I mean, people would attempt to commit suicide. Some people were successful. I mean, those things happen. They happen.
So I
Even when
could
you're
see all this stuff preparing you for your voice career.
well,
Somebody's
I remember
listening, like,
doing
how's this all
okay.
going to connect? It's
Well,
going to
okay.
connect for those
Well,
people listening.
okay, yeah. Well, okay. So now I used to do a lot of stage work in college. Okay,
Got
so
it.
I forgot. I'll tell you what. Let's just
Like
go ahead and talk
acting,
about
you
that.
mean stage
Yeah,
work?
stage acting. Yes, let's just
Yeah.
talk about that.
Okay.
So I did like upwards of 25 different stage shows in college,
Oh,
and I
okay.
never had any real formal training for that sort
No.
of thing. It's just I remember I just wanted to do it because I knew
So
I
you just
could.
went and auditioned at one point and then
I just
started getting
I
parts?
I knew I could do it, so I went and auditioned, and I get the parts, and I just get up on stage, and it was kind of just a just that rush of being in front of the audience and
Yeah.
performing and doing various different characters, from like Shakespearean type characters to, you know, modern day characters, comedies, dramas, musicals, you know, melodrama. And it was just something, it was just a tremendous rush for me. Okay. And it came natural to me to be
Yeah.
able
Yeah.
to do that sort of thing. And also, in addition to that, being able to speak to huge groups of people, like in college when you're called up to the front to,
No, it's
you
a
know,
good
deliver a
skill,
presentation,
right?
right?
It's a
It's not
skill.
something, it's not something that's very difficult for me at all. I can
Right.
address entire stadiums full of people if I have to.
Right.
So, okay. So with that
But that's
having
very
been
rare.
right. So with that having been said, okay. And I
Okay.
also used to do stand-up comedy, and I also I used to
Oh,
do
really? Like
tour.
open night, mic night?
Yeah, stuff like that. And I did melodrama
Got more
and
balls than I did when I was 18.
murder mystery theater.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
That's where like dinner theater where you'd go and they would sit and eat and you would do
Well,
some.
no, murder mystery theater is different. At least I don't
Okay.
know if, and I don't even know if they still do it, because it is
I
just
think
so
they
much
do.
fun.
You're part of the show, right?
You're
Is
part of the convention. You go.
they're doing, I mean, not now, but yeah, they
I'm
do some
playing,
of them around here.
I'm playing, say, John Jones from Denver, Colorado, and I'm, you know,
Right.
I'm representing the Denver office at this convention in San Antonio. And then but there are several other actors, and what we do is we stage scenes of fights, arguments. You know, I'm going to get you for what you did. You owe me money, and don't forget that, and I will get you. And then over the course of the evening, someone turns up dead,
Right.
murdered, right?
Right.
And then a detective character steps
But
forward.
they're participants and this is
Right,
not on
right.
stage, right?
This is, no, you're participants in the convention, right? Yeah,
Right.
it's so you have to really take charge of the entire convention, and the people at the convention they know that something.
Yeah, that's what
they've
they
been
signed up
told,
for, right?
right? They know that it's still their convention, but that also there's going to be murder mystery theater going on. And so what I discovered is that some audiences were very participatory and would just watch, and others, they would stage their own events. You know, other individuals were real creative and would stage their own, and it just would add to everything. And so, you know, you roll with it as a performer. And then so someone gets murdered, and then a detective character steps forward, and then he solves the crime over the course of the evening. And then, of course, if you're the culprit, you try to escape, you know, and then there are, you know, policeman characters who get you, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, it was just a blast. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so then after college, all of that kind of drifted away. I got married. I stayed with gymnastics and martial arts and taught for many years. And it wasn't until after I got out of law enforcement. So I worked at the gym, and then I worked at the screen printing department. Then I worked in law enforcement. Well, when I retired from law enforcement, this was back in 2016. I had gotten a call from my aunt that my father had gone in for a stent replacement in Fort Smith, Arkansas, was where he was living at the time. My parents had been divorced since 1989. So, okay. And of course I'm like, oh, no, right? And so I immediately got up there as quickly as I could. And he was fine at the time. And the doctors up there at Sparks Hospital in Fort Smith, Arkansas, tremendous shout out to those people. They are wonderful. That is a wonderful hospital and an amazing staff up there. They gave him 6 more months, okay, because he passed away in October of 16. And I think about him and I miss him every day. He was a great, just truly a remarkable man. But I remember when we were in the hospital, and he was in and out of intensive care. We were in the hospital for many weeks. Well, he always used to love those documentary shows. Right. And something else, let me backtrack just a little bit.
Sure.
When I was in college, I also kind of fell into doing voiceover work when I was working at the Fort Sam Houston Post Exchange there in Fort Sam Houston in Texas there. Now, a Post Exchange is one of the largest retail complexes you can possibly think of. It has, in addition to, you know, sporting goods and clothes and groceries and
right.
I mean, it has everything. You've got servicemen coming in from all over the planet, and they need to set up their household at their new assignment, and they can get everything, right? Well, this was back when scanners were first introduced, and they were problematic at best. And so I was constantly getting out on the loudspeaker calling for, you know, price checks. And so
I see what you mean. With
right,
little
it was
price
kind of like
guns.
it was like this. It was
Beep, and it wouldn't work.
Well, it was the scanner, you know, the new scanners.
Right, the
scanners now
barcodes, it wouldn't read 'em.
everybody, right, exactly. Now back then it was just brand new. It was brand new. But of course, it had all the bugs you could possibly think of, right?
Of course.
Well, and so you're constantly calling for price checks. I was constantly getting on the loudspeaker. Sporting goods to register 8 for a price check, please. Sporting goods to register 8 for
people started realizing you have a good voice.
Right. So the guy who was running the show, the entire complex, which included Baskin Robbins and the coffee shop and the hot dog shop and the gas station, he was doing the spot promos. And spot promos are the little overhead announcements when you're in a department store.
Yeah.
10% off on housewares, you know.
Yeah.
The new spring sale, right? Okay.
Right.
So, right. Well, he and his name was Mr. Hodge, and he was a wonderful guy, but he sounded like this, and he was doing the spot promos like this. Right. So, and Mr. Hodge, if you're out there, I love you, man. Thank you so much.
This
Okay.
wasn't
So,
his calling.
right. So, but he knew, he immediately pulled me off the register, put me in this little room with an old world like dictaphone that could hold like 20, 30-second tracks. He
Right.
handed me all the flyers and he says, you're doing this for me from now on. You sound great. I sound terrible. And what sold me was, and of course I knew about voiceover. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But what sold me is he said, I've already told them up front, you work for me now. And I said, ooh, I'm off the register. I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, off the register. And I'm like, well, of course, sir, I'll take care of it for you. Absolutely. Right. And so,
Right.
so I'm in that little machine. And of course, I spent the requisite amount of time doing all the Cheech and Chong routines and then listening to them. And, right. Hey, your mamacita, donde está Santa Claus? The vato with the hair on his jaws, all that stuff. Right.
Nice.
Okay. Right. So
We
anyway,
got that on recording.
yeah. So, I was doing all that stuff. And then of course it's time to get to work. And I did that for a very long time.
Just at that store.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then, okay. So now in retrospect,
because you talk about voiceover, you don't realize how pervasive it is.
Absolutely.
In the world.
Chances are your listeners will have listened to a voiceover before they even listen to this podcast.
Probably,
or even view it. I guess you're going to post it on YouTube, right?
It gets posted. Yeah, I don't know if we get any of that stuff, but we post on YouTube and on Podbean.
There you go. Right. So chances are that your listeners will have listened in some form or fashion, like they may have just gotten gas at the gas station and the gas pump was talking to them. That's a voice actor.
The newer ones.
They got a new toy for their child and the child sings.
Yeah, you need somebody to record that, right?
That's a voice actor.
Yeah.
They listened to a Spotify commercial while they were surfing through their list to listen to their favorite song.
Somebody read it.
And then, so that's a voice actor. I mean, it is so pervasive. People just don't even realize how ubiquitous voiceover work really is.
Yeah.
So, okay. So in retrospect, I wish I had stuck with it. I wish I had stayed
didn't at the
with
time
it.
stick with
well,
it.
I was working several jobs. I was attending college. I was
young. It wasn't
like
you're like, oh, I'm going to be a voiceover actor. You got thrown into this. The guy
I'm
pulled you off the register.
Voiceover actor.
Right. Exactly.
I'm going to be a star.
Yeah.
Right?
Target.
No. Right.
Right.
I mean, and of course, and being a voiceover actor, you're not going to be a star. Famous voice actors
it's a
are the
thankless
exception.
kind of job, right?
Right. Famous voice actors are the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, I'm sure there's famous extras in Hollywood, but we never heard of them. But all people in Hollywood know who they are, but in the real world, they don't know who they are.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. So if I had stuck with that, I'd be a lot further along than I am now. But anyway, fast forward to 2016, and my father used to love those documentary shows, the Alaska documentaries, the World War II documentaries, the outer space documentaries. And, I mean, I love them too. They're great. They're educational and they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at him and I remember saying to my dad, I said, Dad, man, the guys that narrate those shows, I bet they make bucks. And I said it just like that. Right. And then my father, I remember he looked at me and he gave me this real intense look. You should do it, he said.
Right. You
used to do that. You used to do all that stage work. You used to do voiceover. You should do it.
You got a great voice. Come on, get out there, Ken.
And he gave me this real penetrating look before he said, you should do it. And I remember I kind of snapped to that because I had been, I had just retired from law enforcement. I really didn't, for the first time in my life, I really didn't know what I was going to do.
Right.
I really didn't know what my next path was going to be. So I remember snapping to that and just sitting upright like, I can do that.
Plus, you knew the business a little bit.
I can't. Yes, exactly.
You know how to connect and get into.
It. I know how to do it. I've done that work before. Right. Yeah. So when I got back, I started investigating it, reading up on it, gathered all the equipment, built the recording booth, and it's upgraded over the years. As years passed, I've upgraded it, made it better.
Right.
And worked every single day, with the exception of the times when my family comes to visit. I can't work when they're staying in the bedroom where I do my voiceover work. I have to break it up.
Right. Exactly.
But anyway, with the exception of those times when I'm either out of town or they're here visiting, I'm working, and I work from early in the morning till way late at night. Like I said, auditions get posted all the time.
And all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Just it's anything you can think of.
It's across the board. I mean, we're talking auditions for business commercial work, auditions for serialized podcasts, audition for video games, auditions for animations, auditions for audiobooks. There are auditions of all kinds.
Right.
Okay. And it's not just that, but I also try to seek out work. I try to make contact with the various people that I usually work with, which are marketers, videographers, creative directors.
Right. People that need voice work.
And specifically those who work in media production, video production. you know.
Sure.
Yeah, right. And so, you know, and which typically
Now,
will
do
lend
you have
itself
an
to
age?
the thing about,
And you have like a sample reel? Is that what you have? Like
yes,
a,
not
I
only
mean,
do I have a
reel's
reel,
not the right word anymore, but
well, reels they still come into play.
well, when you
They
were
do.
coming on, you said mentioned something about taping. A lot of young people have no idea what that means.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. We
Well,
don't
you
use
know,
tape anymore.
yeah, taping. Exactly. It's just recording
Yeah.
onto software,
Right. Of course.
basically. Yeah. I mean, here's my,
I mean, did
here's
you
my,
have stuff posted
here's,
somewhere on a
here's my
website?
micro. Oh, absolutely. I have my own
Yeah.
website, Kenneth Bryant,
People can listen to
voicetalent.com,
samples and
which
stuff.
has all of my audio samples. It has a list of my audio
But you're not
books.
on like what's the ones? Jungle something, Voice 123, those websites?
I am on voices.com. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm on quite a few of them. I'm actually on over 16 of them.
Oh, okay,
Voice
you are.
123, my membership. I don't really want Voice 123. I've gotten work from Voice 123,
Right.
and I don't want to get into trouble with Voice 123, but they have this weird algorithm in Voice 123 that kind of discriminates against people who don't pay as much. If you pay
Ah,
$1,000 a year for membership, oh my goodness, you get first dibs on all the auditions, right?
right.
You know, and they'll push you real good. But if you don't, well, if you pay like, you know, $299 a year, well, yeah, we may
You're
give you a
nobody.
few auditions. Yeah, we
Yeah.
might shunt a few your way. But by the time you get the invitation, 70 to 100 people have already auditioned ahead of you.
Yeah,
And the
well,
thing
that's the
about
point.
that sort of, and the thing about that is depending upon the algorithm of the various platform.
Yeah,
Okay, what's called in the industry a pay to play site, where you
sure.
pay a fee in order to have access to where major corporations and small and mid-sized businesses and private clients all want to get professional voice quality work done for their projects. Okay,
Right.
so I have read, after having been members of all of these various organizations, of which now I I have a list of them. So I think upwards of 16 of them across. So I've got my face and my profile and my audio samples just plastered across the internet. But so I've read for the Mars Corporation. I've read for JD Power. I've read for Swiffer. I've read for Dell. I've read for Unitron Discover. I've read for Dassault Systems in France. I've read for Sartorius in Germany. I've read for a veritable host of small and mid-sized businesses. And of course, all of the other various and sundry character voices that I mentioned earlier, serialized podcasts. And when I say that, I mean like fiction podcasts where they
Yeah,
tell a
yeah,
story.
like it's
Yeah,
a 8-part series on
right.
a murder
Exactly.
mystery. And
And
yeah,
I pay various characters for that.
yeah, sure.
There was a horror podcast, Sirenicide, that I
Those
read
are
for,
fun.
and right, and you read demon voices and so forth,
Yeah.
and audiobooks, video games, animations. And so yeah, I do anything that has the voice attached to it. I have auditioned for or I have worked on. So yeah, yes, and it is required basically to dispel the myth that when people ask me, because I get asked all the time. I get asked all the time,
Right.
"Ooh, how do you get into that?" I
Well,
mean,
that was my next.
my mother tells me I have a great voice,
Right.
or everybody always tells me I have a great voice. Well, having a great voice is extremely important, obviously,
Yeah.
but it is the most basic starting point. It is the most basic starting requirement. Okay, I mean, it's a performance art. You have to be able to perform in front of the microphone, not just by yourself, but also in a recording studio with clients and the engineer watching you, or when you're on Zoom like we are now, or on Skype, or on the
Right.
phone,
Yeah.
when you've got clients on a speakerphone and they're listening to you and they're giving you directions, and you have to be able to implement their directions in the very next take, because I mean, time is money, right? They want it to be
Yeah. They
done
want
as
to do it
quickly as
50
possible.
times.
They don't want to have to keep telling you, no, 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 just throw that line away, just throw it away, just throw that away. Well, you need to implement it. Like, okay, here's the perfect example. I'm waiting on the next script for a Sony PlayStation game. I can't tell you too much about it, but I'm playing one of the characters that helps the player learn how to use their weapon and also
Okay.
navigate the various, sundry playscapes in the game, right? Okay, so the team at Ember Lab out in California, and these great group of guys. Okay, we were trying Skype at first, but it kept crashing, so I just got them on the phone. And they had me read every possible interpretation of the scripts. Okay, so like I was
Is
strictly an
that
authority
because they
figure.
want that
They
for the?
want every single
Yeah.
possible interpretation so that they can choose. They have options. They can
Right.
choose for what
Plus,
they
they may
want,
use it differently at different times, and it makes it
or
look
or
like it's
or, or
artificial
maybe they want a
intelligence.
different tone for a certain scene, right?
Right. Right. That's what I mean.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it's the same thing with all the clients. They want different options, different reads, different takes. So, and also various what are called taglines or cut downs, where
Right.
they may say, okay, let's read the last line, which is typically the line, that you hear at the end of a commercial. A famous one is "by Menon," right? That's a famous tagline, right?
Okay.
Everybody knows that one. Bye, Menon.
Got
Everybody
it.
knows that one. I mean,
Right.
everybody knows it. It's called a tagline. So they'll typically say, okay, well, let's get like 3 or 4 of those, and let me get one more full read of the entire script. But up until that point, I've read several different interpretations. I've done them faster, slower, dropped a few words, or maybe put more
Right.
emphasis in the
Because
middle
just
as
like
opposed to
a video director, he's trying to get what
exactly. They're
sounds
wanting
good to him.
multiple options,
Right.
and you have to be able to implement the directions as soon as they give them to you. Again, they don't want to have to pull it out of you. You have to be ready to give it to them, and you
Right.
have to be ready to give way more so that they pull you back.
Right.
You know, it's better for them to pull you back. I had a director tell me this a long time ago. He says, you give me so much and I love it. It's better for me to pull you back than it is to have to draw it out of you.
Yeah, of course. Because then he
Right.
can hear what he wants to hear and then
Right.
change it.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I try to do when I get on these directed sessions. And I also rehearse the script. And that's what people don't understand. It's hard work. There's, first off, the equipment is expensive. Good equipment. Okay. I mean, you need to get
No, they want you to have good sound. Yeah.
a good condenser microphone. Okay. The proper recording environment. It needs to be very quiet. You have to have a very quiet noise floor, which is the ambient noise background. It has to be very, very quiet. And they want professional quality. So that means that you have to invest the money, you have to invest the time. And I always advise people to get some coaching first, okay? Because not everybody has done it. Like I was very, very fortunate. I always tell people I was very fortunate that it just fell into my lap when I was working at the Exchange, at the PX back in Fort Sam Houston. It just fell into my lap. Remember the Mr. Hodge? He said, "Oh, that guy sounds great. Let's get him in here. He's going to do this for me."
Yeah, except that you didn't
I
continue pursuing that.
I wish I had.
You
I
went back
really
to
wish
it
I had.
later
I would
on.
be so much further along now. I really would be so much further along.
Right.
But okay, so you need it requires coaching. It requires money for the equipment. It requires money to build the booth. It requires your time, because you're not going to be the new voice of Geico next week. It's not going to happen.
Really?
It's not going to happen.
Damn.
No, it's not going to happen.
All
Sorry,
right,
Mitchell. I know you had your heart set
I'll
on
have to
that.
tell them that they're not going to tell my wife I'm not getting the call.
Yeah, you may as well just keep your day job. Sorry.
I was working on my lizard accent too.
And I'll tell you why. Number one, because it takes years before you may even win your first audition for $100. And number two, the guy who does the voice of Geico, he's keeping that job.
Yeah, you think?
Okay. Yeah.
Like Flow for Progressive.
Yeah. They're keeping that job. Okay. Yeah. So,
well, unless they get, some scandal or something.
So, you have to network, you have to promote, you have to record, you have to get your name across as many casting directors, talent agents, marketing directors, video producers' desks as is humanly possible.
Right.
You have to stay focused. You have to learn to deal with rejection, because rejection is a part of this business. Okay. They may post.
Well, some of it's also experience, right? Because you're only going to be so good your first time out, your second time out, your fifth time out, you get to be 20, 30. So if you go into these things at the beginning saying, okay, I'm just here to learn, I'm going to do as best I can and I'll grow, and maybe I won't get the job, but it's another experience, a notch on my belt. And now I can say I did this 25 times, 50, 100. That's probably a good attitude, but
it is a good attitude.
If I'm, so everybody listens, right? There's voice everywhere. Sure, I can do this. People tell me I have a great voice. And you told me a lot of things that you need to do to gear up and whatever. What's like the first one or two things? If somebody says, okay, I think I have a good voice. People tell me this is the podcast. Oh, you have a voice for radio. I'm like, I don't know what that's going to do for me, but how would I get started in your industry?
Like I said, first seek out some coaching. Actually,
find a coach.
Find a coach
who can tell you the truth. Maybe you're not so good on the mic. Just people think you are.
You need a coach who has two things. Number one, a good wealth of experience under their belt, have worked on many different projects, and number two, has a good vision for where the voiceover industry is going. Okay, and yes, number three, someone who'll tell you the truth. Someone who, because you have to be prepared to hear. Maybe you shouldn't give up your day job.
Right, and you probably hear that a lot. So how do I find a coach if I'm in New Jersey?
Well, you gotta so that's the $1 million question. You got to actually do some personal research. You're gonna have to, there can be one. Obviously, you can do it.
I guess you go on Google and search for voice coaches, right?
You can search, absolutely. You can either do that, or you can search locally. You can actually do face to face. Now these days, it would probably be more remote,
Zoom, but you'll eventually be face to face.
But you can do it locally, or you can find somebody on, just Google it, voice acting coaching, and oh my God, it just pops up. So you got to be aware of, though. Here's a tip. Okay. Once you find the individual that you click with, that you feel like, you can learn something from, what you got to be aware of is a coach who will immediately, within the very first few weeks of your training, say, hey, let's cut a demo. Okay. Because demos are expensive to cut. especially, you know, if you're going to go to a recording studio and cut one.
Right.
And those are expensive, and that can cost a lot. You don't want somebody to immediately jump directly to that.
Because it sounds a
Okay.
little early.
It is early. It is early.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn first. It's not, it's just, you know, I had, like I said, I had a leg up. I had done the job before.
Right.
And so I was able to jump right in, hitting the ground running, and it served me well. And I have learned even despite that, I've kept my mind open. I've learned new techniques. I've listened to my peers. I've listened to their work. I've read all of the latest new trends, and I keep abreast of that. I've published articles that I've written myself on Voquent.com, and Voquent is one of those that I have a profile on. And and unlike the rest of them, Voquent is not a pay-to-play site. It is a premier database of quality voice actors worldwide. And so to be able to write for them is a tremendous privilege. Miles Chicoine, and he runs the show out there, and he's just a great guy and has a great program. He's looking to create he's looking to where he has a database to where clients can find the voice actor they want,
Right.
and then work with them directly without going through the auditioning process. Although he's wanting to also put up auditions as well. And he's also wanting to create the Voquent to be very nimble to time zones around the planet. Like, remember earlier, I mentioned that, you know, you get awarded a job at 3:30 a.m. and the job may be on the other side of the world. Well, it's business hours for them.
You mean they award you at 3:30 a.m. They expect you to do it then?
It's possible. Yeah, possible.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know, I mean, like I say, I've been awarded jobs at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Right.
And that particular job, they wanted, let's see, there were 9 scripts total, and they wanted 6 takes of each script. And they wanted it by the end of that day. So I had to work that whole Sunday, okay, recording all 6 takes of each script, and then cleaning out, editing them for lightly editing them for time and for breaths, and then just sending them all that raw audio, okay? And it's easier said than done. We're talking, what, a 9 times 6? I mean, that's just
54.
a boatload of audio files that you have to listen to, make certain that they all sound good, that there's the noise floor, the background noise is very quiet, and that there are no clicks, or, you know, because when we speak as human beings, and the human ear has learned after thousands upon
Plosives, right? Don't they call
exact plosives, sibilants.
plosives? Yeah.
Plosives are the with the P
Right.
sounds.
That's why you
Sibilants are
use a screen, right?
a pop filter, right?
Pop filter.
And
right.
sibilants is when their S sound
Right.
gets too high. Sibilants.
Yeah.
And there are other mouth glottal clicks, you know, when you're just talking, and well, the human ear has learned to filter that out, so we just don't hear it when we're talking to each other in real life. But the microphone picks it all up.
Right.
Okay? It doesn't discriminate. It picks it all up. And so you have to listen to yourself and make
Sure.
certain that, you know, you don't have mouth clicks in the middle of your narration, because you can't edit that out. You have to go back and you have to redo it.
Right.
And there are tips and there are ways that you have to stay hydrated. You keep your mouth open when you read. It's when you open your mouth, when you close it and then reopen it, you make noise. So, you learn to, little things that you learn over time.
Right. But people, if somebody wants to get started in this business, they should do a lot of research. They should read about the industry.
Research.
Get involved with these organizations.
And the reason, the reason I say get some coaching is because, number one, the equipment is extremely expensive. It's very expensive.
Right.
The startup costs just for the equipment, and then you're going to want to establish an online presence. You know, that can cost building a quiet environment, because it's just absolutely necessary. Walk-in closets are great, but even they, unless they're like mine, which is just full of so much stuff that you just can't even get in it hardly. Okay, right? But walk-in closets are excellent, but even they still require some, soundproofing, a little bit of baffling, or a little bit of, foam, great foam on the walls and so forth. Yeah, you just can't put a microphone on a glass desk, which I've seen pictures of, and it's beautiful. Oh my God, they look beautiful.
Oh no, I do interviews with people and they get an echo. Yeah.
Right, because glass echoes, or it vibrates when sound is projected at it, and that gets into your recording, and it's just, you're not going to win an audition. It's just not going to happen. So you need a very specific kind of microphone. Your cell phone microphone is not going to work.
Right.
Gaming microphones, your laptop microphone, none of that, dynamic microphones that singers use on stage, not going to work. You need a condenser microphone. And people can get by with USB microphones for like podcasting and general Zoom networking or whatever. But if you really want to be competitive in the voiceover industry, you need to spend the money and get a good condenser microphone.
And yours, it's an XLR mic, so it goes into a board.
Mine is a Rode NT1.
Okay. Is that the same company's Rodecaster? They make that mixing board for podcasting?
Possibly. I don't think so. The Rode, it's just Rode, RODE, Rode. and they make video cameras, they make microphones, they make audio interfaces.
Yeah, because there's a,
Right.
it's not the one that I have, but there's a mixing board for podcasting. It's called the Rodecaster. And you can literally slide a USB stick in there,
Right.
and you can hook up all these different mics.
That's
I
what
can
you-
hook up 4 XLR
Sure.
mics.
Right, right. And okay, is that all one word? Roadcaster, ROAD, Roadcaster.
No. RODE.
And it's just all one word, Roadcaster.
Yeah,
It's
because
probably a
Caster,
separate,
because it's the product.
right.
Podcast.
It's probably a separate brand. Sounds
Yeah,
great
might
though.
be.
That sounds great. Yeah, and for
I
what
mean,
you're
it's
doing,
like
it's perfect.
It's $500
Yeah.
or $600. This is only
Yeah,
200.
absolutely. Yeah,
I have
and for
right
what
here.
you're doing, yeah, it's great. Now for myself, I have an audio interface just for me because it's just my
Right,
voice.
it doesn't go right into the computer. There's an
Right.
interface.
My microphone goes into the interface, and the interface in turn turns it into a digital language that the computer can understand while it's recording.
Right.
So, but it has an analog sound, the old radio type sound that people are familiar with, the clean, crisp, intimate,
Right.
close, like where I'm sitting right next to you talking.
And that's
sound.
affected
Right.
by the equipment.
By the equipment, but also there's a certain technique. I mean, this is where the great speaking voice, and this is, again, I don't want to diminish the importance of being able to speak well. It is very important. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want to slur your words. You know, you want to be able to speak well.
No, you don't realize if you record yourself, you listen back, you don't realize
Yes,
how
that's
you
it.
speak, that you're
That's
slurring
it.
your words, you're talking
Exactly.
fast. I get
Exactly.
that with people. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. People do need the coaching. Also, not to learn the ins and outs, but also for that reason right there. Here, okay, I want you to listen to this, and then you play it back. Okay, you hear that, you hear this, you hear that, all that clicking, or you hear you're getting a little, there's too much saliva in your mouth that sounds a little spitty, you know, or whatever, things like that. So those things need to be worked on. They need to be fixed. They need to be, because you're not going to win work if you're talking suffering succotash, or
unless
whatever.
unless that was the job.
Unless that was, what was Daffy Duck, of
Right.
course, did that. Mel Blanc and Daffy Duck. That was his spitting thing.
Right.
Well, that was the thing, right?
Yeah.
When I primarily work in business commercial work. Like, for instance, if I was gonna, like at the top of the show here, I did my little opener, right? Hey, Mitchell Blannicker and I on the Accidental Entrepreneur. Well, that's not gonna work if I'm the accidental.
Right, of course.
That's not gonna work, right?
Now, does a voice coach help you pick out the equipment that they think you should use, or?
They can offer suggestions. What's really important, and you can go to music shops and test the equipment. They'll let you test it. Okay. What's important is to be able to actually get on the equipment and use it, and actually listen to how you sound, because some microphones have a broader range, some have a more narrow range, some are more geared to lower baritone and bass voices, some are geared to higher, more tenor and more soprano type voices, and so you need to get on the equipment. And some are very broad, and some have a bit of background noise, and some are very quiet, And when I say that, I mean the microphone and the equipment itself can have a bit of a hum sometimes. Okay, like for instance, you're like if people are recording and they have their laptop, and sometimes laptops can be loud, right?
Right.
The fan can be.
You mean like they're talking through the microphone in the laptop?
And the laptop is humming in the background, and the microphone will record it. The microphone will
pick up everything. I get a lot of feedback from people if they don't.
That's it.
Wear a headset or earbuds, something.
That's right. You have to be able to filter out all of that noise, and the best way to do it is to have a quiet recording environment to begin with, because trying to filter the noise floor down later with software and with applications,
very hard. Yeah.
It's difficult. Yeah, it really doesn't work. You end up, a lot of times you end up sounding like you're talking from the bottom of a well. You sound this echoey, kind of distant, far away yelling kind of sound. It's not, you'll never win an audition. It's just so important. And these are the things you learn from a coach, and that you learn over time. Because I made a lot of mistakes. I made so many mistakes.
Of course. Well, that's how you definitely learn. I mean, look, my mic is not very sensitive. If I put it away from my face, you can't hear it. Can you hear the people in the background in the office talking?
I can, no, but I can hear.
He's not talking
I can hear. My wife has a visitor out in the living room.
I can't hear
him. But I can. I can hear them.
Yeah, I can hear the guy talking in the other room, but I don't think the mic picks it up.
So we're fortunate that now, Now, if I were wanting to record, and this is nothing against you, okay? If I were wanting to record like an audition for, like, say, Dell, I would tell I would tell everyone, and I've even told my neighbor. Oh my God. I've even told my neighbor when they're out there, sawing their trees, and I do everything I can to soundproof my environment. Okay. Right. I've got it as good as I could possibly get it without spending the boohoos of money needed to, and even when
they totally soundproof.
People don't understand. Yeah. Exactly. And then I'd have to add an extra layer of wall filled with soundproofing material in order to completely,
it's not worth
utterly.
Right.
Yeah. So I have to sound, maybe the more appropriate term is sound deaden.
Yeah.
Sound deaden my
Yeah.
environment. And for the most part, I live in a very quiet neighborhood, and it's all good. But there are times, when my French bulldog scratches on my door because, he needs to go out and he runs the house. And, I mean, he's, I've been on a directed session. He starts scratching on the door and I say, I'm sorry. I am so sorry, gentlemen, but my French bulldog will not stop. He needs something. I need to go see what he wants. And so I've had to tell professionals, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." Hey, let's see him. Hey, bring him in and hold him up to the camera or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And,
I've had birds in the background.
Yeah. Right.
I've had all kinds of stuff with
Or
people.
or the city will bring their sweeper.
Yeah, I've lawn. I was talking to a woman who's she's a video person. She's not a voice person, but she helps people on camera, this and that.
Right.
And her husband starts mowing the lawn in the background, riding the mower.
Yeah,
and
that.
She's like, oh, there's my husband.
Yeah, the
right
leaf
in the middle
blowers.
Of the podcast.
The guys with the leaf blowers, or
Yep.
guys who are doing craftsmen who are using their circular saws.
Right.
For
me, it's different. It's only the podcast, so it's not a big deal.
There's a certain amount that I can do to lower the gain and lower the recording volume, and as a result of that, I can compensate.
Now the difference between the gain versus the volume.
Okay, well, recording volume, I just you're reducing the volume on the software, but the gain on the audio interface, it will reduce the radius of sound. Okay. And it will reduce the area that it's recording, so that, like, for instance, if I have to yell if I have to scream in pain, like I've been, like, for one podcast, that horror podcast, sorry,
right.
I was playing a demon, and he had been defeated and was screaming, and I had to do all these different types of screams. So I had to turn the gain way down, because if you just have your gain up, at its normal point, and I just scream,
it would be real loud for the listener.
Well, the waveform on the software is just one big blot on the screen. And you can't do anything with that.
Because it's peaked. Yeah.
It's peaked. It's
I've
utterly
learned that the hard
across
way.
the board. Yeah.
Even when they normalize the sound, it doesn't.
Right. It doesn't work. It's too peaked, and it sounds like you're blowing out your speaker. Right. Okay. So you reduce the gain, and then you also you don't actually. And this is another thing. I don't actually scream at the top of my lungs, but I do a kind of acting scream.
Right.
It's kind of acting, but more forceful. Yeah. And I don't. Yeah. And I do it in my audiobooks, people get shot and it's kind of like, I mean, and there's in video games, it's the hard sounds of A, E, I, O, U.
When you're getting punched, those are funny.
That. Yeah. So,
that's funny.
And you do various types of those for video games So
that's voiceover too. People don't think about that.
That's it. It's voiceover.
If it's sound, it's probably created by a human.
Imagine a poor voice actor for a video game in a fight scene, and okay, let's do that again. Let's run it from the top.
Yeah, doing that for several hours. You want to kill yourself.
Yeah. Well, okay, so recently the union put rules in place so that, come on, we can't have them doing it all day. Okay, you need a couple hours.
Well, they're
and then
paying you for it, right?
Right. Yeah, but it takes over time. That kind of stress that it puts on your vocal folds, which is what they really are. They're not chords; they're vocal folds. Okay, the amount of stress, you get hoarse. And then what if you got another?
Then
job?
You can't work tomorrow.
Well, yeah. What if you got another job? Just the next day for a business commercial job that requires a nuanced presentation.
Right, a smooth voice.
If you have to have that smooth radio voice, right? Okay. Well, and then you're all hoarse. Hey, that's right. It's you come on down.
You could do a Sopranos movie, maybe.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now you're doing it, the Godfather, make it look like an accident,
Exactly.
Right, yeah. So there's just so much involved. There's so many moving parts, and again, it's just me doing it. And I have learned so much in the last 4 years. It's been over 4 years now, and I'm working daily, and I've achieved a lot of success in the industry, a lot of success.
So you've only been doing this for about 4 years now?
A little over 4 years.
Full time.
Right. Since I got back from Fort Smith, Arkansas in 2016, that's when I got busy. It was maybe in the second week in June of 2016.
Okay. Yeah. So about 4 years.
And so I got it all set up, and I just hit the ground running and just started chasing it. And my first projects were audiobooks, and I have several on Audible now. I've read for several independent authors.
So you literally went out, bought some equipment, set up your whole thing, and then started submitting samples.
And just started up and created samples, recorded samples, edited, mastered them, put them up on the internet, started auditioning for audiobooks and other work, and just, and there's a mentality called submit it and forget it. because if you put your whole heart and soul, oh, this is the one.
Right.
Oh, this is the
You're
one that's
gonna
going to
really
pay off
disappoint
so
yourself.
big.
Right.
No, you have to just do the best you can with every single audition
And move on to the next
and
one.
move on to the next one.
Right.
And I'll tell you, the way this industry works,
Because it's a numbers game, right?
it is. It absolutely is. And there's a kind of a hurry up and wait mentality too. For instance, I have put in auditions that have run the gamut from me getting the job 20 minutes later to where I get the job upwards of a year later. And I've long since forgotten about it. And hey, congratulations. You won this job and we're going to need this, this, and this. And I'm like, hey, wow, thanks. Could you tell me what that was again?
Right.
Maybe what was the job so I can look up my audition?
Right.
Because I save all my auditions.
Yeah.
And then I listen to it. And I'm like, oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. But, and then also I've gotten paid for just because they liked my audition so much. They used it as the final cut.
Oh,
those
really?
Are great. Those are great. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that is great. That's when you get paid out of the clear blue, and you get an email from the creative director like, hey, we love that so much here. Here's your pay. We love that. And listen, we'll keep you in mind for the next project. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is too cool. Okay, that happens too. But what generally, I'll get the job, and they require it. You'll submit the audition, and it may be, like I say, up to 3 months later before you hear anything back. Then you get awarded the job, and then they need the files that day. They need them. Oh, we need them today. We need them right. We need them as soon as possible. We need them today. So you get that done, you get them submitted, and then it may be net 90 before, or maybe several weeks before you even hear that they like them, or they need a revision.
So you might not get paid for 6 months.
It may take a while to get paid. That's another thing that people need to understand. Yes, they will pay you. Okay. Now there are voiceover pirates. There voiceover piracy does exist, but you have to guard against it. But there are ways to guard against it, and I've learned them, and I use them, and they work. Okay. But you get awarded the job, and sometimes you have to be patient, which means you already have to have a good cushion of money set aside to work from, a good cash flow already in place, because it's not like going to the 7-Eleven and getting a Coke and then you pay them and you get your product and you're out the door. No, sometimes it is. Very rarely though.
Right.
Very rarely. Most often you have to wait. It's a kind of a hurry up.
Well, I would guess even if they hired you right then and you recorded, it'd still be a couple of weeks before you got paid. They got to cut a check,
they may want to, and they may want some revisions. They may want to say, "Oh, hey, well, listen, we love those, but if we could get another couple of takes, a little bit slower, and maybe a bit more emphasis on these sentences here." And so you have to record those, right? Now, past a certain length of time, and I make this clear to all of my clients, past like 3 weeks, revisions become a new project. So that's to kind of push the kind of push it a little bit, like,
right. Well, you want to kind of set the rules in terms of, I guess, as you go on, you can pick and choose, right? Set your own terms.
Exactly. So I've been awarded the job. Okay. So, here, let's take it from the beginning. I submit the audition. Hurry up. Submit the audition. Okay. Then it may be a while before you hear if you got the job or not. Maybe 3 months later. 3 months passes. Hey, congratulations. We've decided to give you this job. Hey, appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, we need those files today. You turn them in. And then you don't hear anything.
Right.
If they don't want any revisions, right? If it's all good, then I'm like, maybe a week or so, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I'm like, guys, do you need revisions? Well, how are we standing? Oh, hey, no, we haven't forgotten. We're just working this out on our end. Yeah, we'll pay you as soon as possible. And you do eventually get paid, but sometimes you have to prod them. Right?
Now, is payment usually by the hour, by the job?
I charge per word.
You charge per word. How do you figure that out?
Well, you with Script Timer software, what you do is for scripts of 250 words or less, I charge a minimum of $200 plus a $20 production fee, $220. And actually, that's my standard transaction because most business commercial scripts are very short. Very short.
Yeah, because you don't want to do something for $25. It's not worth it to you.
Well, no, of course not. So, it has to, And if you're charging per word for 25 words, well, I'd have to charge like $10 a word or something, no, that's not going to work. That doesn't work. But when you get up past, like, say, up to 500 words, well, then you're charging, let's see, I'd have to get my PDF on the screen here. It tells me how much I charge for that. There we go.
Yeah, well, you have a per word charge, but you also have a minimum, right?
Yeah, the minimum for 250 words or less is $220. But if it's, say, like 750 words, then it's 40 cents a word. And there's also a production fee of $45 for that. So it's like
$400.
Right. Plus the $45. Right. And that's that's a competitive rate. That's competitive. Okay. Okay. Now there are certain platforms that will undercut, and there are certain, I don't want to name them because
maybe they'll say, if you want to be on our platform, you got to charge X.
Well, it's not that exactly. What they're doing is they're undercutting. Basically, they'll work for beer money just to get the work. And
Okay.
what that does is, as you might expect, it just basically lowers the overall standard of the industry. Okay.
Right.
And now some of these individuals are very good and they should charge more. They should charge what they're worth. Okay. That's just, I stand firm on that. You should charge, no matter what your field is. If you're a professional, you should charge what you're worth
Yeah,
and
there's no
stand by
question
it,
about it. You're not going to
and
get
just
every
stand
job.
by
I
it.
mean, I do stuff, legal work. People are like, oh, really? That's more than I thought I have to spend. Well, then you'll have to go to somewhere else. I'm sorry.
That's it.
That's the best I can do. I can't work for free. I'm better off spending time. You're better off spending time looking for another job than you are filling your time with doing little jobs, unless you're just getting started and you're looking for experience,
Right. Right.
then
Exactly.
it's different. But Ken, so I know we've been on the mic for a long time and I got
We
a
have.
3:30 call, but I wanted to just, so yeah, the business of voice and voiceover to everybody's like glamorous, almost like movies, right? But it's not that easy. You got to
It's not.
get started, do it right. And you got to go all in, right? You got to
Right.
do all kinds of auditions and
Sure.
produce material and do sample stuff and get posted and get on these websites and maybe invest 5 or 10 grand in
Right.
getting,
Let me
good
put it,
sound.
okay, I know you're running short on time, so let me just kind of encapsulate it.
Sure.
You can work on voiceover part-time, but you need to be prepared to get up early in the morning and be frosty and work late in the evening after you get off work. You have to
Right.
resist the impulse to grab a beer and watch TV.
Right.
You need to be frosty when you sit in front of your microphone.
Yeah, because it's hard. I have
It is.
trouble at night, 8, 9 o'clock at night with
That's
my
it.
voice still going. I've been talking on
It
Zoom
gets
calls all day.
old. It gets very difficult. Imagine
Yeah.
putting in up to 25 auditions a day, recording awarded work, monitoring your email all day long. Okay. And also networking with people, doing one-on-one
Right.
calls, still submitting auditions way up to 8:30. And then you go and you watch TV and you see one pops up on your email. Oh, wait, no, they're paying so good for this one. Oh, I got to go do this one real quick. And then you step back into your booth. And the next thing you know, you're back in it for a few more hours because there's other stuff you have to do. It's hard work.
Right.
There are several expenses. Number one, first is your time. It's going
Right.
to take time.
Yeah.
Number two, the money to buy the equipment, the money to set up the
Couple of
deadening
grand, maybe
sound
at least.
space. You can set up a good recording booth for about $1,000. Now,
Not including the booth, just the equipment.
Now the equipment, the microphone and the audio interface, you can get that anywhere from $300 up to over $1,000.
Plus, you need the computer.
Right. And yes, you need a good computer in order to, file with software. Now, software, there are lots of free downloads of software. There's Audition, there's Audacity, there's
Right.
Reaper. Now, there are also paid versions of some of those,
Right.
but they work just fine. So that really isn't the issue. So you need the time to commit to it. It's going to take years.
Right.
Take up to 10 years before
Yeah.
you start making a living. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to be prepared to be rejected. You have to
Right.
be prepared that your work will not, and you won't even know why. They won't even tell you why.
Well, you got to be, who cares?
Somebody
right?
else got the job and that's it.
Yeah.
You just move on to the next one. You have to be prepared to spend the money to get the great equipment. You have to be ready to learn and implement new techniques. You have to be open-minded. And when people critique your work, you can't take offense at it. You have to listen.
It's a learning
Listen to
experience.
what they're saying to you. And this is especially important when you do finally get a directed session live client.
Right.
Because they will tell you what they want. And if
Right.
you're not giving it to them, they will tell you.
Right. If you're difficult.
Right.
I would also think you got to take care of your voice in a certain way, right? If I had to
Absolutely.
do voices all day, I'd probably be hoarse within 2 days.
When you go to sporting events, and I know that's been kind of shut down in recent days.
Right.
but
No, you're screaming at the team. You have no voice by the end of the
that's where you learn to do aggressive clapping. Aggressive
Even
clapping.
if you're a voiceover guy.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I don't want to be screaming. Again, my natural tendency, and oh my God, I love football or, and it's like, yeah, you jump to your feet.
Right.
And that's my first instinct, but I've had to, because yes, you do that for a whole game. The next day you're hoarse and you can't work. All right.
Can't
Or if
work.
you get a cold, you get a bad cold. Well, your voice changes and you
Yeah.
don't want to.
Nobody wants your voice.
Well, it's more to this point. If you submit auditions with your cold voice and you get awarded a job based on your hoarse cold voice, and then you're better because it's 3 months later,
You're not going to sound the same.
you're not going to sound the same. You're not
Right.
going to sound the
So
same.
you got to take care of yourself. A lot of
So it's
neti pots, right?
Yeah, right. You need to take care of your voice. You need to avoid yelling. You have to avoid. I do the aggressive clapping at sporting events. Various. I will like squeeze lemons into a spoon to start off with, or you stay hydrated.
All kinds of tricks,
Drink a
right?
lot of water. Drink a lot of water. Water is being hydrated is so important because when you're
If you're drinking too much water, you better have a bucket by your microphone.
It's it. Well, the bathroom's right down the hall.
Yeah.
But if you're dehydrated, you get a lot of mouth clicks. If you're dehydrated,
Right. Because you got a lot of saliva sticking in your mouth.
Sticky. You get that sticky, and then
Yeah.
apples. Apples are good for drying your mouth out. If there's lots of things to learn. Lots of tips that can help with all of that. but it's things that, yes,
Interesting.
everybody has to learn.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
And it can
Well, I
only be
think that
learned.
they see you on these Zoom calls because, that's how we met on Big Call. And they're
Mhm,
like enamored by the people that have a mic or sound better on the
mhm.
call. And
Right.
they don't understand that it's a business. Although
It's
you're the first, I think you're the only voice person that I've met. Have you met
yeah,
other
that's a
voice guys on some of the calls? No?
a couple. It's a very well kept, I tell you what, by the time you broadcast this, it will probably no longer be a well kept secret, but it's something that I've pursued pretty vigorously because I've met, and this is so important for me to get this out. I was really worried at the end of the first quarter with the COVID outbreak
Yeah.
because the posted auditions dropped precipitously.
Right.
I
I'm
was putting up
sure.
to 25 a
Because
day.
there was no buyers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it dropped. I was lucky, like in April, I was lucky if I was putting in 9 or 12 a day as opposed to 25, right? Although I did notice a marked uptick in medical related, COVID related tickets,
Okay. Yeah. Right.
and real
Sure.
estate drone videography
Right.
because people can't show live anymore. But I was real worried. And so I got onto the Zoom call about, like, the first one was the LinkedIn local Marin County event. And I met Edwin Adebri on that one. He's obviously the Happy Neighborhood Project showrunner.
Oh,
And
right.
he
Happy
impressed me.
neighborhood.
He impressed me a lot. And so I got on his events like in just early April. And I think he was only doing one a week at that time. And I realized, wow, I can actually reach out across the nation and even indeed across the world. I've talked with people in Africa, in the UK, and
Yeah.
in
Me too.
Belgium, and in
Right.
South America. You can reach out across the planet. And unlike locally, I can actually reach marketers, videographers, creative directors,
Right. People you can do business
talent
directly
agents,
with.
and
Sure.
we can speak in real time. And what has happened is I've developed numerous contacts, upwards of 1,500 on LinkedIn in that group, okay, that are in various stages of communication. Like, okay, so tell us about how you got started. And then, okay, we have a 375 word project. What would it take? How long could you turn that? How would it,
Right.
what would you
Next thing
do?
you know, you're
What's your
getting business. So
files?
you got business from it then.
Right. And then you get to a point where it just kind of, you hit like a flashpoint where orders start coming in. Okay, hey, yeah, Kenneth, listen, we really
Because a
enjoy,
lot of people know about you at that
they
point.
know, and yeah, listen, we loved how you present yourself. We love how you sound. We want you to do this project, and
Right.
these are the specs. These are the specifications for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and everything in between. And so yeah, it's been a well kept secret. It's part of the program now. I attend these events as often as I can, although I do have to balance the number of events per week with actually doing work.
Oh yeah, me too. I have
Right.
the same problem. I got
Right.
too many
Exactly. I think
calls.
everybody
I
does.
was doing 1.40 calls a week. Now some of them were individual calls,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably 15 or 20 of them were group calls.
There you go. Yeah.
But I didn't have
Yeah.
any work either. All of my clients were closed, or they were
Yeah.
not worried if
Right.
they'd ever open again. And
Right.
business is now coming in. Today I was busier. I had some things going on. But interestingly enough, I had this company out of the Midwest that contacted me about a purchase agreement.
Nice.
And I told them, oh, well, I'm in New Jersey. They said, oh, well, we're selling this piece of equipment to this company in New Jersey, large construction company. I looked up, everything seemed great. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
fraudulent. They sent me a check. It
Oh.
was out of
Oh.
Canada.
Oh no.
None of the names check out. I've been trying to check it out. It's all
Yeah.
BS. They're trying to get me to deposit a check
Yeah.
into my trust
Sure.
account.
Right.
They're going to suck the
Yeah.
money out.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
Now
was
that happens in
disappointing.
voiceover work too. That happens in voiceover work too.
When people steal your work.
They'll get you'll get contacted. Consider this job paid. We need you to go down to this recording studio and and they'll send you like like a money order or something, like, oh,
Right.
this is all paid for. No, it's not.
And
It's
you would go
okay.
down, do the work, and then you find out it's
Yeah,
BS.
yeah, completely, yeah, both. And then in the meantime, they've gotten your banking information and they're cleaning you out.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Well,
And
that's unfortunate. But I
yeah,
think
it does happen. Yeah.
I think that yeah, I mean, I think we're better off in terms of COVID from a networking standpoint, and we wouldn't have met. I probably tripled my
Indeed.
network with the people
Absolutely.
that I know. I've met people all around. I interviewed, if you look back on another episode, with a woman named Cynthia Zai. She's a voice coach in Singapore,
Nice.
and
There
she
you go.
teaches people not necessarily what you do, but she teaches
Right.
people how to
How to
be a
sing?
speaker and
Okay,
work in
speaker. Sure.
management, right, and project your
Right.
voice and be an
Absolutely.
authoritative person without sounding like you're bullying people and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's actually very ironic for me because I love going to networking events because I love meeting new people.
Yeah.
And the local, obviously up until the beginning of this year, my last live networking event was in early March, right?
Right.
Okay. And now typically you meet the typical attendees at a live networking event. You might have like, finance represented, construction, maybe like catering,
Right.
the so-called
Coaches.
traditional businesses, right?
Right.
Well, I didn't necessarily connect with them with my voiceover work because
Right.
they would obviously recognize the importance of voiceover work.
Right. But they weren't
But
really
not everybody,
using your services as
but they're not
much.
going to need it every day, right?
Right.
They may not need it for years,
Right.
right? Okay. But what did connect with them was my public speaking coaching business. But then
Oh,
the
you've been doing that?
I did at the beginning of the year, and I remember telling people what it was for me as some of these events, and I don't want to keep you. I know
No,
you have
I
to
got
go.
a few minutes.
I know you have to go, but you go to these like BNI events or some of the others,
Yeah.
and they kind of go around. Okay, so stand up and tell us what you do.
Right.
And everybody there is the best representative, either by their employer or they are self-employed, and they're the best to talk about their business. But the stage fright just goes right
Oh,
across
they're all over the place.
and they're like, they get up and they're like, hi, yeah, I'm John
They
Jones, and
wet their pants right
with
there.
Pools Plus, and we want to put a pool in your backyard. Okay, thank you. And then they
Right.
sit there, right?
Or they don't stop talking.
Or yeah, and my heart would go out to these people, and
Right.
because I would get up and I would immediately just take charge of the room, say what
Yeah.
I need to say, and sit back down. And there's a certain power in stopping talking.
Yep. A lot.
Yeah, you say what you need to say, and then you stop, and then sit down.
Yeah.
And then
You've
it
said
leaves an
enough.
impression,
Sit
right.
down.
And then you sit down. And then I would get people lined up after these events early in the year, back in January and February. Oh my God, I need your help. That was so wonderful. Look, I freeze up so bad. Listen, when can we put something together? Well, then COVID-19 happened, and all that got
No,
shut
but you
down.
can still do coaching, can't you, for people that attend these
This
meetings?
is what happened. This is what happened. And
Elevator
I'll
pitch
leave-
coaching.
When I got onto the Zoom online event, I discovered that the public speaking coaching business online is extremely well funded, well sponsored, and well attended by, oh my God, CEOs. And so the competition is just immense for
Right.
that. But my voiceover work, unlike the live networking event, stepped right back up to the front again on the online networking event.
Yeah, because you're the only guy doing it.
And also they can see my equipment, they can hear how I sound on it, they can
Right.
interact with me in real time.
Yeah.
And so it's been great. And so
You have
yes,
a
I've kept
unique
it-
sound. If I'm on the call and there's 50 people on the call and I hear your voice, I know immediately that it's you.
Yeah.
And I look for the little yellow triangle or the yellow square. I'm like, oh, there's Ken.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yellow.
when you talk, there's a yellow bar that goes
Oh,
around your
right.
square.
Okay, sure. Right, of course.
That's
Right,
what I'm talking
exactly.
about.
There
So,
you go.
yeah.
No, you're right. But no, I've kept that a very carefully guarded secret. But I'm thinking that as time goes on, other voice actors are going to learn that it's just really great to get on Zoom and just network.
Right,
and
but if people are listening and they're interested in improving their voice on the microphone, you're available.
Right.
For a fee, of course, but you're available to be hired to coach them and to work with them and make them speak better, right?
I have not started coaching voiceover yet.
Okay.
There is still a lot I want to accomplish on the business commercial end as a voiceover talent myself.
Okay.
And it's not that I have anything against coaching, and
No.
I probably will soon, probably. But there's so much I want to accomplish for myself. This is a point I was getting at earlier. I've achieved a lot of success, been read for a lot of major corporations across many industries and genres, but there's a difference between having achieved success and being successful. Right. So my metric for that is 3 projects a week for 6 months straight. And I feel that once I get to the end of that 6-month period, it will be self-sustaining. There's no reason for it to stop. There's no reason for me not to be getting awarded projects on a weekly basis after that much time has elapsed. And me having worked consistently every week.
That's your goal.
And that's my metric for success in the industry.
Okay.
And then, because I feel like after that point, yes, then I may not have to audition so much at that point.
Right.
Then people will be seeking me out and sending me work. They'll be
Right.
just be calling me up and say, hey, can you record this for us? Hey, yeah, absolutely. What do you got?
Right.
As opposed to me sifting through the list of auditions on all my platforms and then submitting them and just doing that all day long, every day, over and over and over. Right. So I'll get to a point where people will start calling me, and that's starting to happen. That friction from the conversation.
Well, that's what happens when you put the time in,
That's it. Exactly.
So why don't we do this? Because we're going to get off the mic in a minute, but maybe in the show notes, we can put resources for people to start learning about, be in the voiceover industry and how you might get started, and
Sure.
things, equipment you like, or how to find coaches. Maybe we could put
I can tell you the best, right? And the best for that is Voquent.com, the news section of Voquent.com.
Spell that.
Voquent, VOQUENT.
Okay.
.com. Yeah. Their news section is strictly all things voiceover. And they discuss, I've been interviewed about getting started in voiceover work. I'm publishing another article in there about directed sessions pretty soon.
Okay.
There are so many articles about, getting started, creating your booth, what microphone is best,
So
how to
that's
get
the
it set
best
up.
resource to go to.
I got to say, you can
Okay.
type
Well,
into
we'll put a
Google.
link in the show notes to that one. Let's
You can
send
say
people there.
you can type into Google voiceover coaching, voiceover acting, voiceover equipment, and oh my God, it will just generate just an innumerable list
Yeah.
of
But Voquent's always
sites
on that
and
list.
equipment. But Voquent really has it all centralized into their news section, and
Okay.
it
Perfect.
really is a great resource. Now, if you'd like, I can research some that I've read in the past that I found to be helpful and
Yeah,
post them.
too. Absolutely.
I'll send them
Send
to
me
you.
all the links. I'll put them in the
Sure,
show notes. I'm going
sure. There
to
you go.
hold on. I'm going to turn